Hey again, it's me, Tim, Frankenstein, People's Blues of Richmond. We're gonna talk about some more lyrics to songs. The first one went pretty well with "Leaves Die." Um, somebody, I think it was Gabrielle, said that I'd like to hear about the house on Oregon Hill, and immediately that sounded like a lot of fun. There's a lot of words in that song and a lot of meaning that I wish I had more time to explain on a daily basis on stage. But so, House on Oregon Hill. Oregon Hill is a neighborhood in Richmond, Virginia, and me and Matt, the bass player in People's Blues of Richmond, we've known each other since we were about 6 years old, 7 years old. We had second grade together, and he moved down from Long Island around the same time I moved down from Southern Maryland, and we knew each other growing up. We played sports together. We were friends and stuff. I went to his bar mitzvah and birthday parties and stuff like that. And then in high school we didn't hang out much, but he played in some bands, and I thought that was like the coolest shit ever. That somebody my age was like not only in a band but like creating music, and it was really inspiring because I was starting to play guitar. And as far as people who like played guitar in our school, I was like the worst because I had just started. And so yeah, I looked up to Maddie a lot in high school for the music thing. And then uh, I got into George Mason University, and I went there for a semester, and I got kicked out for smoking weed. Transferred back down to VCU because it was the only other place that would take me, and I needed a place to live. So Matt and a couple of my friends were moving into the house in Oregon Hill. I think he'd already been there for a few months, and I wanted to move in. And Maddie was kind of like the deciding vote, and he was like, I don't know, like Tim's kind of a spaz, and he wasn't wrong, and we hadn't been that tight in like the past couple of years and stuff. So I didn't like take offense to it or anything, but I wanted to convince him that I was worthwhile, my person to hang out with. And we one day I'm just over there hanging out, and he is like, does anybody want to eat acid with me on my birthday? He had just turned 19, and everybody was busy and had stuff to do except for me. And I was like, yeah, I'll eat acid with you. So just me and him went and had a really really fun time. Like, we hung out with other people too, but we bonded a ton that day, and just laughed our asses off, and it was really nice. And so after that, we were both rather fond of each other, and excited to have a new friend. And I moved into the house, and he had a band, and they would go down to North Carolina and play. And that was the coolest shit I'd ever fucking heard. And I was just doing open mics like solo. My band in high school had broken up years before, and I was just making music alone because it's better than not making music. And so we live in this house, and our buddy Jared lived there too. And he eventually overdosed on some opiates. I don't remember what it was, opiates and benzos or something. And we had to call 911 and hold his head up and wade through all that shit. And he ended up being okay, but he had to move out. So the room that Jared had lived in, you don't want to say it was like cursed with insanity. Is the chick who had lived there before. We referred to her as Crazy Girl because we didn't know her. We just, a bunch of her mail, and all of her stuff was there. And there were these letters about escaping from mental institutions and running away with boyfriends. And there were all these like antipsychotic pills that we would take for recreational fun and see who could stay awake. And then there was like a Ford Bronco out back that she had left there. Like they just shipped her off to somewhere and left all her stuff there and never came back for it. One night we took the car battery out of this girl's car who was there hanging out, and she didn't know, and put it in the Bronco because the key was in it, and it started up, and we'd already smashed all the windows and mirrors out of it with table legs and stuff like that. So we drove it around a bit and hit some trash cans and then put it back. But so this house was absolutely insane. And then and you know, we're all falling apart. We'd had another friend who had also gotten really fucked up on drugs, and he almost died, and it was almost our fault for waiting so long to call an ambulance, because he kept waking up and saying, "Leave me alone, you're not my mom." And when he couldn't argue with us anymore, we finally called 911. He was on kidney dialysis. He's 19 years old and, like, you know, on kidney dialysis and couldn't lift his arm and shit. And he ended up being okay, making a full recovery. But then one of our best friends, Nick, he had a really tough go of it. He lost his dad around the time that he was really starting to develop pretty serious bipolar and get into drugs. Like still to this day, I've never seen drug use like that. You know, 10, 15 bars of Xanax and heroin and crack. And he was the smartest kid I ever fucking knew. And like, when we were kids, we didn't know what bipolar was. We thought that we knew a folk hero. You know, like, this is the kid who was like, fuck you to the fucking, like, principal and to the fucking police officers, and like, he's throwing punches, he's just not taking any shit off anybody, and like, he was so sweet to us, but he was just a wild animal. And you know, we didn't realize, you know, what was going on as we were kids. And then so he got really bad off on drugs and ended up shooting himself in the head. And we, you know, our group of friends, we'd always liked the song "Wish You Were Here," listened to it a lot when we were, you know, 14 and stuff, and by Pink Floyd. So I'm getting ready to play that song at his funeral. I got like a harmonica rack. I'm writing a little melody on harmonica for it, because I can't play the leads on the guitar while I'm playing the rhythm and singing. And Maddie comes in the room, and we hadn't really been playing music together except for, like, you know, little house jams when everybody'd be drunk and there'd be a bunch of people playing music. But he came in and he sat down on the drum set that we'd moved into my room, and we, like, you know, we cried and played music, and he got his bass and we played more music. And it was the weirdest thing because it felt good, and like, I didn't think that anything was ever going to feel good again after Nick pulled the trigger. And you know, Matt was the same, so we knew we found something really special that, like, you know, gave us a glimmer of hope in the darkest moment of our life, and we still cling to that. That's our tool. We know that the worst that shit has ever gotten, music was still fucking music, and it was still beautiful. So no matter how bad it gets, we've always got this. And that really tied us together. Like, right then, we started playing music together and never stopped. Like, his dad used to play in, like, New York City late 60s blues rock bands, which is like the coolest thing I've ever fucking heard. And I was obsessed with blues and rock and roll, so we had a lot to play on and talk about. And so I moved all my shit out of the room that I'm renting because I want more room for music shit. I'm so excited. We put an organ in there, and the drum set's in there already, all our amps and stuff and guitars, and it becomes the music room. I'm literally, like, push everything into the closet, and then I empty the closet out to put like more shit in, more music stuff in, put the bed up against the wall, and then eventually got it out of there. And so I was sleeping on the couch downstairs, and Maddie came down one night and he's like, you just like taking GBs and watching movies down here every night? I was like, yeah, dude. And he's like, that sounds awesome. So he abandoned his room too and moved down to the other couch next to it, and we just slept there with our heads next to each other, like on the catty corner couches. And that was cool. Like, not only did we not need anything else, like, we abandoned everything else. And so then, oh shit, actually, even before I moved my stuff out of there, this is where the rats come into play. There was a rat problem at the house. We'd see them every once in a while, run through when if we're like partying and stuff. So we'd chase them around, and I mean, the first time we saw one, we were scared, and we we get like all armed up. Or actually, this is the time that we decided to start killing them. We'd seen them a few times and not killed them, and so one day they're eating the food on the counter. So I start putting the food that's out, like bread and shit, up on top of the fridge, and the rats are getting up there somehow, eating that shit. And then next night, I'm sleeping on my mattress. It's like the same mattress I've had since I was a little kid. Maddie used to give me a bunch of shit about it because it's so tiny, and so it's like this high, like off the ground. I mean, it's sitting on the ground, and it's only this tall. And next night, I wake up in the morning, and there is holes chewed all through my blanket that I was sleeping under, rat teeth marks, and so I'm pretty upset about that. And that night, I go to bed, and I wake up and I hear some rustling, and I'm like, shit, is that a plastic bag like being blown by the fan, or is that a rat? So I get up and I'm looking around, and like every time I get up and like make some noise, the rustling stops. So I'm like, all right, this has got to be a rat. And I finally see him, and he is behind my dresser, like upstairs in my room, and I chase him down the stairs. I wake up the boys, Jared and Matt. I'm like, this is fucking war. They're in my room, they're in my bed, they're eating my food, I'm starving to death. Like, this is my life or theirs. So we get ourselves all armed up with like the recycling bins and the brooms and the mops and shit, and like pizza box shields, and we're down there like looking ridiculous because 3 of us, probably 500 pounds worth of dude against like 1 pound worth of rat. And we get it cornered, and we're like, all right, we're gonna like throw this thing out of the way, and then we're gonna smash it to bits. And we throw the thing out of the way, and it just jumped straight at me. And so we're like, or I don't know, it jumped like at us. We're all 3 standing together, so we like hop out of the way, and it like runs away. And we were so scared, we're jumping up and down, screaming like girls, and or yeah, not like girls, but we're screaming like scared people. And then we go get some traps, and because we're scared, like we couldn't kill them the first day, and the traps start leaving these like not dead rats. They're just like hurt, like next to the traps. So we have to like take them outside and like kill them quickly and mercifully or whatever. And from there it got crazy. We were chasing rats around with skateboards and chair legs and killing them in the house. And one day we're chasing one around in the living room, gets behind the couch. We throw like a milk crate down on top of it that we used to hold records, put a record underneath of it so it's like sealed down from the bottom, and pick it up, go outside. It's just me and Jared. He's got the cinder block that we used to kill him, and I'm like, he's like this, and he's like, all right, you ready? Drop it. And I let go like the record, drop the rat down, and Jared's gonna try and smash it. This thing is running in the fucking air before it even hits the ground. It's just boom, zooms off. Jared throws the cinder block down, misses it, and so we're on foot chasing it down the alley. And I got the broom or the mop, some sort of stick, and swinging at it, and and I catch it once, like right in the square of the back, and it goes tumbling like I paralyzed it or knocked it out or something. Jared comes running up with the cinder block again. He goes, bam, and slams it down on it, and the cinder block like corner hits the thing like here-ish and just blows all of its insides out its fucking ass. Half it hits Jared in the leg. There's like a big piece of its insides on the fence and shit. It was crazy. So yeah, that house was gross, and we killed 13 rats in horrible ways there. And before we found out that the ice maker coming out of the fridge, it was like a hole in the wall to under the house, and they were all just coming in there. So all we had to do was cover that up and stop using ice. But so that's a setup for the house. You know, cigarette burns are obvious. Oh, and shit, that's how we got our band name. Is because in that room that used to be my room became the practice spot. Sorry, this is so long-winded, but that room was filled with beer cans and cigarette butts because I always smoke in my room, even in non-smoking houses, because I suck. But so I was like, we either got to call this band Cigarette Butt or PBR, because that's all that was around. And we thought of some things for PBR. You know, people call it the People's Beer of Richmond. We heard that term back then, and we were like, damn, it'd be cool to be People's Blues of Richmond, and really try and take a swing at, like, I don't know, it just seemed to give us a really high ceiling with that name, because like the People's Blues of Richmond, there's like Mississippi blues and Texas blues and Chicago blues and like English blues. There's all these famous styles of blues music, and a lot of them revolve around like 12 bar and the same sort of riffs, but Richmond, expresses itself in like takes its pain in a lot of different ways. You know, when we got here, there was an underground punk scene and like a legendary fading metal scene, and we wanted to be parts of those. You know, we want prog and punk, and like a lot of the genres that we saw in town had a lot of redeeming qualities. Like the energy at the punk shows was just palpable and addictive, and that's all we wanted in the beginning, was house shows, high energy, and that was really cool, and it still plays a huge part in this band. But so yeah, we thought, man, we could maybe start like Richmond's own blues, or for the modern era. Not that there hadn't been blues music here. Fucking Harlem of the South, right up in Jackson Ward. But anyway, so I'm gonna get into some of these lyrics, because there's some parts I really like in the choruses. They're not really choruses because they change every time, but kind of are. So originally that line, I've been up all night losing hope, blowing smoke at the moon, was I've been up all night on dope, blowing smoke at the moon. I was struggling with opiate addiction back then. And so the first chorus is, that's easy, the more we drink, the more we tend to spill. Music doesn't get to you, the madness surely will, in that house on Oregon Hill. But so then we get into some of the interesting stuff, like in a porcelain fixture, Jared pukes a mixture of liquor and some narcotics. It's been a wild month, he's been off his antipsychotics. Jared was living there until the overdose, and he couldn't live there anymore. And yeah, it was wild. I remember me and Jared used to get really drunk, and I was, tend to be a bit too much for people, and kicked out of bars and stuff. And Jared was a person that I could drink with, where like he was even worse than me, and it was a lot of fun. Like we'd go out and we get really loud and really crazy, and so he shit, what was I just talking about with Jared? Oh yeah. So one day I'm finally like, yo, Jared, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but you're too crazy right now. Like I can't hang out with you if like and keep drinking with you like this. it's insane. And then so he was like, holy shit, like Tim saying that. So he started taking his medication, and then I was like, I'd fuck with him like you do with friends and push his buttons, and he'd just be like, okay, and like really passive, which is like the opposite of Jared. I always love how he'd get like loud and in my face about shit, and I try and bring it out of him. And so then I was like, all right, you're too much when you're fucking trashed, or where's my finger? You're too much when you're trashed, and you're not enough when you're on these drugs. So he stopped taking the drugs, and she got crazy again. It was a wild month. He was off his antipsychotics. And then this one I really like, a handful of hair from that hound that harassed you. It's just a play on hair of the dog that bit you. Might clear you of headaches from beer grass and pain pills. Early birds eat the early worms that they kill. Like the early bird gets the worm, but the early hunters make the early bird's wings still. Like the early bird gets the worm, but the early hunter gets the early bird, and late worms do whatever the fuck they want afterwards in that house on Oregon Hill. Because we were lazy, messy, up late at night and up late in the day. We'd wake up late, and yeah, so we were late worms, and we were getting by some fucking how. That line in the last chorus part, the road of excess led me to the palace of misery. That's a play off of a William Blake quote from his book Marriage of Heaven and Hell. And the quote goes, the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. And I wanted that to be true when I was younger, and I felt pretty betrayed by the concept when the road of excess led me to strung out, suicidal, and missing all my dead friends. But that's part of this. It's part of this life. The highs are amazing. Like, this is the most rewarding lifestyle ever. I don't have a place. I don't have a car or a phone. I got shit. But like, I didn't used to have. I used to have that kind of stuff and not have happiness. And like, I feel fulfilled. Like, I have purpose, and like, so this world gives a lot, but part of going out and finding the people in the world who relate to us, and who feel like the music that we're making and the art, they're crazy people like us. They're people with problems, and it's like the most beautiful fucking thing in the whole world when we can help each other, and it's the saddest thing in the world when we can't. And that's part of this world that I keep finding over and over, is that crazy shit happens around crazy people, and you lose people, and you see fucked up stuff, but you learn to forgive other people, and to find people who know how to forgive, people who make mistakes as well. And yeah, so we learned a lot about ourselves in that house on Oregon Hill. And we went in there as just people, and when we left, we were the People's Blues of Richmond. And yeah, we were on our way somewhere. But I hope that covered a good bit of it. Thanks for tuning in. It's the House on Oregon Hill. I'm Tim from the People's Blues of Richmond.